We stopped on page 162, using your body to communicate. I don't know this, I guess some people know this, some people do not, that your bodies actually communicate. How you stand, how you motion with your hands, how you use your eyes, or what you do with your face actually communicates. It tells people how you're feeling, it tells people what you're thinking. Some people, whatever they think, you can tell right away. If they're upset, you can tell. Do you know somebody like that? They're upset, you can tell they're upset. They're not having a good day. You know it right away because it's on their face and they don't hide it very well. Other people can hide it very well. So, but to say all that is we use our bodies to communicate. And so that means when you are delivering a speech, you are communicating even with your own body. Nonverbal behavior is what I'm talking about. If you're nervous, your body will show it. Breathing rate will change. Your tension will show up. A lot of times people are nervous, they'll be doing something with their hands. The movements of their bodies will show their nervousness. They'll be pacing the stage or whatever. There's a variety of ways in which these things manifest. But basically, your nonverbal behavior does communicate. So if you want to communicate confidence, you know, you have to behave and position yourself a certain way. You have to stand upright. You have to look your audience in the face. If you don't look your audience in the face and you're delivering a speech, there's something wrong with that. They know that. They know. There's no connection there. So you can use your nonverbal behavior to enrich your speech. It can detract from your speech if you are not comfortable with yourself, if you're not, if you're nervous or something like that. It will make your listeners know, they'll know it and it'll make them uncomfortable. But you can also use it to help you. So, I don't know, you probably noticed I use my hands, I gesture, I wave, I do all sorts of things. I use my face. I raise my eyebrows all the time. I smile, I smirk, I do all sorts of things because I want you to understand the emotion of what I'm saying. So I can support my words with my facial expressions or with my gestures. If I really want you to get something, I'll start using my hands or something like that. And that lets you know, hey, this is something really important. He's really trying to get something out. And so I'm supporting, emphasizing something here, okay? And sometimes I'm looking for interaction from you. Sometimes I am pausing because I'm looking for you to give me a clue. I'm looking for a response. I'm looking for some sort of a feedback. So what we talked about, communication is not a one-way street. When you're speaking to somebody, you're looking for feedback. You're looking for confirmation. And what is being said is, you know, being understood, perceived. So there's an area of study called proxemics, okay? And that is an area of study that talks about how human beings use space. It comes from the word proximity, proxemics. How we use our space differs from culture to culture. Some people like to speak really close to each other. Other people do not. Have you ever talked to somebody and they were standing too close to you? Have you ever had that experience? Anybody? Have you ever talked to somebody and they were standing too close to you? You were uncomfortable. And what did you do when that happened? You backed up, right? What did they do? They moved closer, right? Some people like to talk to each other very close. Other people like to stand apart. Americans tend to be on the side of having an ample personal space. They do not like to, when you get too close to them. And there's other cultures who like to keep even a greater distance than Americans, okay? So like arm's length, You know, I have to be like this far away from you for us to talk. If you come closer than this, then you're too close. I have to not be able to touch you. If I can touch you, then like maybe we can shake hands, but then I have to keep my distance. So different people are different. For some people it's elbow length. That's about it. Half an arm length. It's like that. And so proxemics is going to change on culture. But the formality of the occasion may put you in a position where you have to be really close to people or really far away from people. The type of speech that you're delivering may have to be how close you are to people or how far away you are from people. And then the other one is your personal preference that the authors note. Some people like to be close, other people like to be far. So there's been places where I've been asked to speak in a very large auditorium, for example, and there were maybe like 40 people there. You know what I did? Instead of speaking from up there, somewhere up on high, I asked for a microphone that's not attached, for a lapel microphone, and I just came down closer to the people and I spoke to them because I wanted to see their eyes. And I wanted them to see mine. And I knew if I was far away, they're not going to see me. They're going to hear me because the microphone is there, but they're not going to see me. And I wanted to see them. So I would come down and get closer to the people. And sometimes I'd ask people to move closer to me as well. And some of them don't want to move, but I make them move anyway. So this is the occasion changes things. Different types of situations may cause you to be closer or further away from people, okay? And so if the type of relationship you have with people, is it formal or is it informal? You know, is it your new boss or the boss you knew for 40 years? That's going to change things, okay? So standing close or standing far is one aspect, and the other one is moving and how you hold your posture, okay? So what do you think of a person who stands like this? This is how I'm going to give my speech today. I'm going to talk like this the whole time. What do you think? Is that good? Dynamic? Not dynamic. How about this? I'm going to talk to you like this. You hear me now? See, two very different postures. Posture creates a mood. I'm communicating a feeling. And how a person stands in front of you and how they deliver a speech makes a difference. If somebody's, doing this, it's very different for them to be heard. Okay? And if I'm just reading the whole time, you've noticed I use my notes. I look down at the book I read because I don't remember everything 100%. I have to look it up. But I try to focus on you, and I want you to focus on me. Okay? I know you got your books on your laptops and you're sometimes focusing on that. That's okay, I don't mind. I know what you guys are doing, but the idea of how your posture is, how you hold yourself in front of somebody, and then how you move changes your message. It changes the emotion of what you're saying. Okay? So I've already mentioned this, is how we use our face. Not just our body, but our face as well. And this is called effect displays in our textbook. That's on page 164. Effect displays have to do with the emotions that we send out as messages. As I mentioned, you can notice that somebody's sad or upset or angry or annoyed. By looking at their face. Some people can hide it, other people can't. So, and you know right away. So your facial expressions can betray you. I have been in situations where people were offered food at the party that they did not want to eat, but the host really wanted them to try. So the person tried and ate the food and said actually verbally that it was good, but the face they made was so awful that everyone in that room knew that they hated it. Okay? This is what I mean. Like, our faces communicate. So my words say, oh yeah, this is really good. I want some more of that. In reality, I'm like, I wish I can spit it out right now. The only reason I'm not doing it is because I want to offend you, but you don't really know how to cook. So you see, our faces give away emotion. And so when we're speaking, we have to be able to control it. Or if we want to display a certain emotion, we need to display it. Why? Because it supports our speech. It makes our speech better. I want you to know how I feel in my speech. And that, because it makes my speech better. It makes it effective. So something that we do with our faces, is a big part of speech making. I have to say that from culture to culture, the way people use their faces change. I have a hard time sometimes reading emotions in Asian culture. Just admitting you, sometimes I have a hard time. Not everyone. Some people, I understand how they feel because they're more open. Other people tend to be so reserved that if they're happy, I don't know they're happy. They're sad, I don't know they're sad. To them, a happy and a sad face is the same. I can't tell the difference sometimes. Well, I need to know that. I need to know if a person is happy or sad because it helps. Because I want to be intuitive. I want to be able to understand where they are, not just where I am. So reading people sometimes is different from culture to culture. Some cultures hide it better. Okay? I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the meditation or the kung fu or the food or the culture or the language, but somehow to me, Asian culture is sometimes hard to figure out. I can't tell if a person is happy or not. That's just me personally, With other cultures, sometimes it's easier. But I think this is something that we should notice, that from culture to culture, people are going to be using their face more or less. And sometimes that depends on where they come from, because that's how they were raised. Okay, gestures. There are different types of gestures that are out there. How many of you, tell me, how many of you know what gestures means? What is a gesture?
Just movement, simple movement.
Movement, yes, gesture. It could be a hand, or it could be anything. It could be shoulders, What does that mean? I don't know. Exactly. See, you know what that means. How did you know that? Because it's a common gesture. If I go like, what does that mean? Say something. You got it. See, I love it. I love it. If I go like this.
You're the best.
Right, yeah. If I go like this.
Okay.
See? You guys know gestures, right? But here's the trick. That's American. In other cultures, the same very gestures mean something entirely different. In some countries, this, you're going to get beat up if you do that to a person. Because it's like giving them a finger. Yeah, in America, it's like, oh yeah, great. But in another culture, it's actually an offensive thing. So a lot of people don't know that, but gestures change from one culture to another. And so there are different types of gestures. So good, we're clear what gestures are. There are different types. There are conventional gestures, and then there's descriptive gestures, and there's indicators. So conventional gestures is basically when we assign a meaning to something like okay, or I don't know, shrugging your shoulders, things like that. Descriptive gestures is when you're trying to communicate an idea to people. And if I said, I went fishing, what am I doing? I'm reeling in the fish. I went fishing, or if I say, I went fishing, or why not? Well, it depends what kind of fishing. If I'm fly fishing, I'm doing that. If I'm net fishing, I'm doing this. And if I'm doing other kind of fishing, I may be doing that. So different types of fishing. So my gesture actually describes what type of fishing I'm doing. So there are descriptive gestures out there. They simply describe what it is that you're doing. You're supporting your speech by a gesture that describes your action, okay? And then there's indicators. So like essentially when you express your feelings, We do express your feelings with your body and a lot of times with your face. So you're indicating to people that you're sad. You know, when you do a frown, you're sad. Your eyes drop. Yeah, so all of these are gestures, right? Some are more conventional where you can know what they mean, like the okay sign or something like that, or the thumbs up, where others are a little bit more specific to what you're saying. And others are more personal, okay? So gestures can communicate a number of feelings. You know, you're saying I'm feeling good, I'm relaxed, or I'm uptight, I'm uncomfortable, I'm cold, I'm hot, you know. Some people tend to be more gesture prone, other people are a little bit less. Again, it depends on culture. But you can use gestures in your speech very effectively, because they help you say what you're saying. If you have people who have a hard time understanding what you're saying, using gestures helps a lot, because people can read your face, they can read your body movements, they can read the descriptions that you're doing. Now, I've seen people talk practically by not saying a thing. I don't know if you've ever seen that. I know this in the Eastern culture, people do that. They say things without speech. Somebody walks in the room, and they go, they walk up, they stand up, they go like this, and the person knows it's their turn to respond. We nod, we do all sorts of things. You walk up and you can ask the person how they're doing, and they can answer how they're doing without even saying a word, right? And not one word was spoken. So, like, to Americans, that's really crazy, because they don't communicate like that. They just say everything with words. But other cultures are perfectly fine by saying things without words, and you catch on what's going on with their lives. So you can be very, very effective in your speech if you know what your audience is used to, what kind of gestures they are looking for, and you give them exactly that. Okay? Now, I mentioned this before, and I'll reiterate it, that proxemics, your relationship to your audience, is defined through closeness or distance. You can be loud, you can be quiet, you can be close, you can be distant, and all of that creates a feeling or a relationship. If I wanted for you to feel uneasy, I could start yelling at you. I can make you feel very uncomfortable if I want to. And sometimes I do. Okay? Because I want you guys to respond to me and you won't talk to me. But sometimes, if I really wanted to make you upset, I'll just start yelling and getting in your face and getting too close to you. All of a sudden, you're like, okay, he's really getting in my face now. I don't like it. And you're going to go and complain to the dean, right? The point is that how close we stand to people makes a difference. It creates a feeling, an emotion. It sets the setting of our relationship. Our setting communicates also. If we're in a classroom, that's one type of communication. We're sitting out in the grass lawn, it's a whole different situation. If we're in a coffee shop, if I'm speaking really loudly in a coffee shop, it's not a good thing. Why? Because there's a whole bunch of people in a coffee shop doing their homework or doing whatever, and if I go to a library and start yelling, people can get mad at me, right? So setting also makes a difference in our presentation. And we do need to adapt our gestures to the audience, because if you know that your audience understands certain gestures, or they don't understand certain gestures, or they're prone to not gesture a lot, you can adapt depending on the needs of your audience. Let's see. One of the suggestions that the authors give in this textbook is establishing eye contact with the audience. I think I've already talked about that at length, how important that is to look at people that you're talking to, which is exactly why I don't want you to read your speeches, but I want you to face your audience and focus on people as you do that. Don't focus on people all the time because it makes them feel uncomfortable. But if from time to time you make eye contact, that's helpful actually. I need eye contact when I speak because I feel like I get my feedback, otherwise I don't know what's going on in people's minds. You can use your body to communicate your feelings, and you should. Let's see, a week or two from now, actually next week I'm probably going to show you a speech where I want you to look at how people use their body to communicate. And we'll talk a little bit about how you can present things by simply using your body. And speaking is good, but using your body communicates even further. And so regulating how fast you speak or how slow you speak and how fast you move, how fast you gesticulate, all of that changes the urgency, the idea of how urgent it is or how important it is or how much you're trying to stress things. Sometimes when people speak fast, it's because it's very, very important. They got to get it out quickly. They will move their hands really, really fast because they're agitated and they want to communicate that agitation to you. So, let's see. It says, use your full repertoire of gestures. What that suggestion essentially implies is that you have a lot of gestures at your disposal. You know the gestures. But a lot of times when people get up to speak, they don't use any gestures at all. They simply stand over there and just talk. But they don't use their hands, they don't use their face, they don't use their shoulders, they just simply open their mouth and speak. But gestures are very powerful. And so if you use your gestures, you will notice that you will be more effective speaker because gestures support what you're saying. They create an environment, they communicate an emotion and a feeling. And that is what your audience actually is looking for, believe it or not. Okay, that's pretty much what I wanted to communicate in this chapter with you guys. Any questions? Any words you would like me to explain? Are we clear? An absence of a reaction has to be judged as yes or no, and I have no clue. See, at least you nodded for me. Everybody else just doesn't say a thing. See, I'm looking for a response.
I have a question.
Bring it on.
At the beginning of today's class, we talked about the 4 kinds of speeches.
Yes.
And the first 2 kinds of speech, extemporaneous speech and impromptu speech.
Yes.
But the dictionary says, like English word-wise, extemporaneous and impromptu means the same thing.
I know.
But
This is where it's not a dictionary definition. You gotta go by the textbook.
okay.
I know what you mean.
Mhm.
So you're not the first person asking me that question. So, yes.
It's kind of confusing.
I know it is confusing, but you have to follow the textbook.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
We're-
in terms of speech, the 2 kinds of speech are different.
The word extemporaneous can in certain situations mean unexpected. There are also related words to that can be sometimes confused with it, like extenuating, for example, things like that. There's a number of EX words in English that are quite long words that kind of have that same sense. But the way this word is being used in communication studies, okay, specifically, is in communication studies, extemporaneous means a speech that has been extemporaneously prepared for.
Okay.
Something you really planned, worked on, got together, and then delivered. What that means is that you're speaking to a person, and so it's live, it's vivid, it's real. It looks like you didn't plan, but you actually have your points prepared. You have your definitions written out. You have your central idea that you have thought through for hours. It doesn't look like it, because you're not saying, oh, that person is on point number 2, paragraph C. You as a listener do not know that. You're simply you're receiving the final product of a person's work, and you don't always perceive the structure in their speech. All you know is it makes sense, it sounds good, and it's logical, and it flows. You don't know the structure, always. So it appears to you all natural and live and just happened like magic. But it actually was hours and hours and hours of preparation, work, practice, recitation, practicing in the mirror, you know, all of that went on, and you don't know it, because for all you know, this person just got up and started speaking, and that's it.
And can we say like almost every lecture is extemporaneous speech?
Absolutely. Yeah. I prepare for lectures all the time. I know exactly what I'm going to say. I know how long it's going to say. Like, I know that there's certain points that I can spend more time on, and there's certain points that I can spend less time on. And if I have a really good discussion going in class, which doesn't happen here because you guys won't talk to me, but if I have a really good discussion going on, there are certain points that I can shorten, abbreviate, and quickly get out of the way. Why? Because they're not as important. They're good, but I can let them go and focus on the things that my students really want to talk about. So in that sense, I'm completely planned out. I know what I'm going to do, but I'm also flexible because I'm totally making it adapted to whatever moment that we are experiencing. So today, I just had to cut things down. I can go for another hour, but I have to cut it down because I got to get home.